Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Aquarian Mind Podcast. Today's podcast, episode number 256. I'm your host, Jamel Carruthers. It's Mondays with Mello. I'm back. I just wanted to take the time to apologize to everyone who listens to, my podcast, when they get the opportunities. When I was doing my last episode, I wasn't even thinking about, last, Monday being Memorial Day. And, excuse me, when I realized after I finished recording it and, it got, released, I was like, oh, darn, man, it's Memorial Day on Monday. I know good and well no one's going to be really focused on listening, to a podcast on a day we're memorializing, everyone who has served, in the military, for the United States of America. And everyone's going to be barbecuing at the beach, at the pool, potentially watching, the Game 7 of the Miami Heat Boston Celtics, for, the people who are, big time sports fans, things like that. So just wanted to tell you guys I apologize for that. Normally I do tell you guys when I'm going to be taking off. So I will do my best this summer to do that. I can't promise you guys that I'll have podcast every week for the foreseeable future, which is, I would say, from now to about early September, because I'm going back into writing mode and preparing for next year and my books that I will be writing about. They will all be standalones next year. There will be no book series for next year. Anyway, enough about that. Today I want to delve into how my mind wanders a lot. And the top 5 things are constant thoughts, obviously, uncertainty, fears and doubts, insecurities, and healing. Because sometimes I lose mental focus. And it's not necessarily laziness or being unmotivated. It's more about my mind just being everywhere. And I think about so much at once, and it's hard to, formulate the right thoughts sometimes. It's why I like being alone so much. It's why I always look forward to decompressing from people. Because people suck the life out of me. They just drain my energy. Man, remember I went to an event here, in my city about 2-3 weeks ago. And after 3 hours of that, I was like, yeah, time for me to go home. And it was like rolling over into the next event that was going on at the same location. And, people were like, oh, are you sticking around? And I'm looking at them like, no, I'm an empath. Y'all done sucked the energy out of me. I'm out. I jetted out of there, hopped in an Uber, and, brought myself home. Anyway, my mind tends to drift to anything that comes up. It can be goals, life, people, situations, things I've been through, things I'm looking forward to. There's also the aspect of, like I said, being an empath and just feeling so much. So emotions catch up with me at times, and especially when it comes to life situations. So I start to wonder how many of you guys go through the same thing, where your mind just wanders and, you're thinking about so many things. I can admit a few nights ago, I woke up at like 3:30 in the morning, and before my brain can start going all over the place, I just decided, you know what? Let me just open my iPad and just play my game, my game that I play off of the App Store. And it's fun, and it's called Lost Survivors, if you guys don't know. It's nothing bad, it's just more of a relaxing type of thing where you build things and you save people from this plane that crashed and things like that. But anyway, that's just something I do to keep myself from thinking about so much, because I am a thinker and an observer, and those are things that I can admit to. I can be zoned out and forget where I am with my headphones in my ears and music playing. Sometimes I can say I've done, most of, most things, with my headphones on. I've been this way since I was a little kid, honestly. I'm just naturally someone who can be by myself in peace and quiet. And if you're someone that can do that, you can definitely be my friend. Anyway, there are times I zone out and I'll write chapters of a book in my head. How do I remember everything? I have no idea. But I can't remember like what I wore like last week to like an event or a baseball game. Like, it's just funny to me. But I do write notes in my head, and then I put them in my phone, and I come back to it later, and then it all makes sense, right? It's also annoying that it's hard to calm my mind down and get it to relax, which is why I have that game that I play now. I overthink and overanalyze everything, and thankfully when I write, that's not something that I do much of. I just let it flow. And then when I come back and I edit and proofread and make sure that it, sounds right, makes sense, the story flows, then I'm good. It's very rare that I'm full blown like wiping out like 10 lines of like things that I wrote. Maybe 1 or 2 lines from time to time, rewrite it, rephrase it, or I already kind of said what I said in a previous chapter and I'm repeating it again. So, okay, fine, I'm good. I'll get rid of it. It's the same thing when I'm writing blogs, same thing when I'm, sitting here recording these podcasts. It's me being free and just me being who I am. I enjoy bringing out my personality. You guys can't, physically see me. You're not in person with me. So by my tone of voice and how I'm conveying, this podcast to you and so many others, you can get a feel for who I am, what I'm about, and my personality. And when people ask me questions in interviews, I tend to admit my mind being in constant thought, along with me being quiet and watching everybody and being an observer. I sit and watch people and how they, carry themselves. And sometimes when I, start talking to people, I'll get their whole life story. I have no idea why, but it happens. And I'll admit that my mind wandering a lot, well, it's a gift and it's a curse. It's good to create content. It's bad when it comes to my personal life. The way I'm, working on breaking out of that is trying to be in the moment more, which means less social media, less posting all the time, less checking up on other people's lives and doing things that I love, working out, bike riding, basketball, swimming, writing, recording, reading, and having engaging conversations with people when time permits, right? And those who are listening to this podcast right now may understand how much my mind wanders and how much thoughts that I have, because it's part of who I am and I'm trying to get better at it. I'm always a work in progress. And one thing I'm starting to do is I can watch TV for a little while, but once it hits like 9 o'clock, I'm over it. Like, I don't need to watch TV anymore. Like, years ago, I can sit and watch TV for like 5-6 hours a day, like before I became, the writer and the author that I am. But now, after about like 2 hours, I'm like, yeah, I'm over it. 3 hours, okay. And that's it. I can binge watch TV shows, but I'm not the person that's going to sit and watch like 6-7 episodes like in a full night, unless that show is like really, really, really good, like Yellow Jackets on Showtime. But I'm not going to get into the show, but I'm just using that as a prime example. Like, people were talking about it and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, yeah. All right. I'll get to it. And then when I got to it, the first night, I think I watched like 6 episodes, 5 or 6. And then the next day I watched another 4. So yeah, then it got a little out of hand, but let's just say certain TV shows do that, for me. The point is that if your mind wanders a lot, just try to find something to decompress, try to, be in the moment. sometimes we tend to doubt ourselves and who we are and where we're supposed to be going in our journey. That's okay. Just don't sit in that place too long. And always know that you're a work in progress. You're not going to have it all together. You don't need to have it all together. And the unfortunate part is, we hinder our progress by thinking too much. And it's funny because I have these conversations with like friends who, really, go through these things. And I was talking to a good friend of mine, and he's like, the more you overthink, the more you are preventing yourself from, letting things flow naturally. And I was like, man, you hit the nail in the coffin, brother. So it's something that, we're trying to convey to other people who have their own platforms and their podcasts and things of that nature. So what I want you guys to think about is how your mind works, what causes you to think the thoughts that you do, and how to manage it. There's this thing called automatic negative thoughts. And I learned that when I did therapy in 2020. For those who know, for those who have listened to previous podcasts, I did online therapy for depression and anxiety. Nothing bad to the point where I needed medication or anything like that. Just going through it. And 2020 was a year for the history books. But I learned that I had automatic negative thoughts. And I had anxiety, and I had all these uncertainties and questioning myself and this and that, and I had to work through that. It's funny because when I moved here to the West Coast, and I'm living in this warm weather, and I got palm trees and bike paths to ride on, and basketball courts I can just go to whenever I want, and things changed. I became more free, and sometimes your environment is a game changer. It's not to say like my family and friends were the bad part of me living in New York. It was the weather. It was other people. It was my environment. It was the noise pollution. So keep that in mind. If you're living somewhere that no longer suits you, it's okay to leave and move. Trust me. Stack your money, get about $5,000 to $7,000, and say goodbye to where you live, and go live where you want to. As I say, be 80 with memories, not 80 with regrets. And with that said, that's my podcast for today. I thank you guys for listening. As always, the AquarianMindPodcast.com. You can listen to my podcast there. It's all broken down into categories of, my episodes. So it's a little bit easier to find certain things. But if you are on, the major platforms and you're subscribed there or you're comfortable listening there, that's perfectly fine. That's cool. Feel free to check out my other website, AquarianMindWrites.com. All my information is there. Books, blogs, audiobooks, clothing line, all that wonderful stuff. So have a good week, everybody. Be good, everyone, and go accomplish your goals.